Presentation on quality assurance in the United States Air Force. Quality assurance in the Air Force works a bit different than in the civilian sector. In the civilian sector, at places such as Boeing, their QA teams are focused on the manufacturing and quality control of parts that will enter service. Since the Air Force does not manufacture their own parts or aircraft, QA plays a different role. They serve to inspect and correct the maintenance professionals while they perform their duties. We'll touch more on their duties in a future slide. Who is QA? In the Air Force, QA is not an AFSC or a job that can be selected when you enlist. QA airmen must be E7 Master Sergeants or above and have a 7th level skill rating, meaning they're masters in their current AFSC. If an airman has these two prerequisites, they may be selected to become quality assurance. Why do we need QA? Often, QA in the Air Force is referred to as the boogeyman on the flight line. They often strike when most inconvenient and when least expected. Why would the Air Force of all places need quality assurance? We are all capable and trained airmen, right? Yes and no. We are all capable and trained humans. Humans, as we all know, make errors and poor judgment calls. We are imperfect creatures. QA offers a barrier between an airman's lapse in judgment and a tragic accident, and they serve as the safety net. So, what does QA even do? Well, they perform personal evaluations, or PEs, and they are the staple of quality assurance in the Air Force. They're due every year for every maintainer on the flight line and can be monitored using GO81. More on that software later. A personal evaluation is when a QA professional meets with an airman during scheduled maintenance to inspect their quality of work. The PE is a pass-fail inspection, with detailed notes given from QA to the airman. A PE fail is not the end of an airman's career. Once their deficiencies have been properly sorted, they will be promptly released back to the flight line to resume normal duties. PEs serve to correct inappropriate maintenance practices and reveal deficiencies that need to be corrected. Flight line checks are like personal evaluations, meaning they use the same grading system and serve the same purpose, but they have some major differences. Flight line checks are completely at random, and instead of inspecting just one airman, they can inspect every person on that job, meaning a whole group of people. While flight line checks are informal, they're not graded in GO81. Like PEs, the airmen involved will still receive feedback on what actions need to be corrected. An example of this would be if an entire crew was not using their PPE, so QA would have to write up their mistakes and give them that feedback. Inspections are the meat and potatoes of QA in the Air Force. There are several inspections that a jet will have to comply with during its working tour, like 60-hour, 100-hour, 500-hour, 1,000-hour, and 1,500-hour inspections. Each inspection is varying in complexity and the number of task items that need to be inspected. While the maintainers are busy at work completing their inspections, QA is lingering around, making sure everyone is following their TOs, wearing PPE, acting appropriately while working, and they're inspecting the jobs during and after they've been completed. Inspections are a big deal, especially on my aircraft, the KC-135, because our youngest jet was produced in the late 60s. We have some old airframes that need a lot of TLC and attention to keep them flying safely and mission capable. So what is QA even inspecting? If QA were to give you a PE today, a flight line check, or a general inspection, this is what they're going to be looking for. Above all else, QA cares about safety. They want the airmen being inspected to have proper PPE and general situational awareness. Before maintenance is performed in the evaluation, QA wants to see that airman has the correct technical orders in front of them and that the jet is safe for maintenance. Once those steps have been completed, the airman can commence the task at hand. They are to read aloud all notes, cautions, and hazards within the task so both parties understand the risk involved in the task. Even for tasks as simple as applying external power or opening fan cowls, all risks must be considered and understood. While the airman works on the task, QA will be evaluating how safe they are when performing the task, how well the airman can read and follow the TO instructions, and they're going to judge the outcome of the job. Like, for example, if an airman is changing a fuel filter and negligently damages the differential pressure indicator, that's probably going to be a fail. QA inspections are straightforward as long as the airman is paying attention and behaving appropriately. So what's all this talk about TOs and GO81 and all these weird fancy Air Force terms? Technical orders just serve as an instruction manual for how to complete a job on the jet, like removing a fan blade. The manuals are downloaded onto our work laptops, and the databases are updated every morning to ensure that we have the most up-to-date information on the task to be performed. Well, why can't I just do the task from memory? Thanks for asking. The reason you can't do that is because the sheer number of tasks that you'd have to remember. It may work once, twice, or even 20 times, but it's that one time that it doesn't work that counts. There's a common saying in the Air Force: TOs are written in blood. There's a lot of truth to that saying. Many of these TOs were written because of someone's unfortunate death on the job. Here's a little short break of me inside of one of our engines, and I'm getting ready to remove all of our 44 fan blades. It's quite a daunting task. And here's another one reminding us that communication is key on the job. Alright, back to the meat and potatoes. What's the public image of QA? Well, spoiler alert, it's not good. The public opinion surrounding QA is actually quite distasteful from what I've seen and experienced. QA seems to be plagued by airmen who want to fill their quota and not make failures a learning opportunity. Every mistake made in a PE or flight line check should become a corrective learning opportunity, so the airman does not continue to make the same mistake. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of amazing QA men and women out on the flight line, but like with anything, there are some bad apples that spoil it for the rest of us. Some of my personal interactions with QA have been pretty bad, because even if I followed the technical orders perfectly, they would still find something to complain about, such as my safety wire technique, which just isn't fair. Many times, the Air Force supervisors will assign people to QA just to get them out of their shop, so they don't have to deal with them. This is a dangerous practice. Only the best of the best should be in QA. So, how do we go about fixing this problem? Like I said, only the best of the best should be allowed in QA positions. The best meaning the most competent at their job, and with good communication skills. It takes both competency and good communication to become a good QA airman. The culture around QA in the Air Force also needs to change. QA should no longer be avoided like the plague, but instead we should welcome them with open arms. There should be no fear of getting punished just to fill a quota, and QA should be happy for someone that completed a task without any errors. If both QA and regular maintainers can't get along, we would have a much more productive and safe Air Force. Reactive, proactive, and predictive. So, which of the following does QA fall under? Well, you've heard of the saying, killing two birds with one stone. Our QA really killed 3 birds with one stone. Our QA accomplishes all 3 of these measures effectively. When an accident or mishap occurs on the jet, they can react to the situation and use their 7 skill level to accurately guide everyone to fix the problems. They are proactive in the sense that QA is actively performing PEs and random inspections to make sure that all the tasks have been complied with. They're also predictive in the fact that they are privileged with much more expertise than most maintainers, and they can accurately predict how mishaps can occur, or what the problems are across the maintenance squadron. Alright, you finally made it. Let's wrap this thing up. Before you get to leave, you first have to hear my closing thoughts. I strongly believe that QA is an amazing tool to aviation, especially when dealing with maintenance and the manufacturing of aviation parts and aircraft. If QA is implemented correctly, with a good culture surrounding it, the biggest change I'd like to see regarding QA in the Air Force is a shift in our culture. We've gone too long seeing QA as the flight line boogeyman. With some active participation from all parties, we can easily change our QA reputation for the better. With that, I'd love to thank you for lending your ears.